So intraracial marriage statistically isn't the best for Black women, while it is best for every other group. And you can't blame Black women for the marriages not working, because they have the best pairing of any group when they pair with white men, regardless to the race and gender of any of these makeups. So you can't put bad marriages at the feet of Black women.
You can see the last, like I said, the last chart, the last peak we had for marriage is in 1970. And ever since then, it has been a nice, steady decline for everybody. So don't get it twisted. It's not just a Black thing. It's not just a white thing. It's an everybody thing. This is the big spike. No-fault divorce. No-fault divorce caused the only two things that actually caused the biggest spikes in divorce is the end of World War I, or the big spike for the veterans going to war, and no-fault divorce. Now, no-fault divorce, with the trend and with the wealth coming into the country, actually caused women to do what? They could leave because they didn't need men anymore. Now let's get into Black folks. And now everybody knows this is blackdemographics.com, and this is actually used the census data to actually come up with this. These are census. This is census data from 1890 to 1910. You can see that marriage, for the most part, except for 1940, where actually black women went to work, men were more than likely to get married, like over 90%, at least one time in their life, and they were actually more likely than white men to get married. Now, the Great Society and welfare actually worked and actually gave white women the confidence to marry white men more than Black men, but it worked the opposite way for Black men. Why is that? If you go back to what E. Franklin Frazier says, that Black women actually married Black men out of necessity, not loyalty. Say that again. Last segment that I did, talking about E. Franklin Frazier in the book, according to him, and we have to take it with a grain of salt, Black women were more likely to marry Black men out of necessity and not loyalty.
Furthermore, for all that talk about people dying and insurance and passing stuff on, interracial relationships as a whole are more likely to end in divorce than relationships where both individuals are the same race. Further poking holes into this nonsense argument is the fact that interracial relationships featuring a white woman are much more likely to end in a divorce, and some niggas ain't gonna like this. When a Black woman marries a white man, it's less likely that they'll end in a divorce.
Yes.
Let that sit for a second. This is the beginning of Monahan Scissors, where he said the better the employment picture, the more the welfare rolls actually went up, because now women had the ability to do what? Separate from their men. They didn't need them anymore, so they didn't have a need to be married. Black women never wanted masculine authority in their life. They never did. So it stands to reason that when they had the opportunity to get away from their husbands, guess what they did? They did so.
The research does not say interracial couples fail. It says Black men dating out does not work. So the general statement that interracial couples fail is not true. The best pairing of any coupling is Black women and white men in terms of longevity.
Now, the second thing that actually started taking Black marriages away, same thing they did with everybody. Okay, this right in here is no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce really didn't take hold to 1980, and everybody's lack of marriage actually went up. When divorce went up, check it out. When no-fault divorce happened, the divorces went up. So in sympathy, what do you think is going to happen? The lack of marriage, or the unmarried rate, is actually going to go up. Now, when you couple that with the crack era and drugs and Black men being out of work in the 1980s, when you couple all that together, guess what's going to happen? What's going to happen is Black women are less likely to choose Black men, and Black men are less likely to get married, because we were never linked by loyalty in the first place. We were linked by necessity, according to Frazier, and that reflects in the marriage rates.
Right? When a black man marries a white woman, it fails. The best pairing in terms of longevity, again, for Black men is with Black women. They stay together the longest. Black men, that is, fail with every other group. The best pairing for Black women is actually not with Black men. The best pairing, based on the research, is with white men. So Black women's best pairing is with white men.
So let's look at the next slide. Now, Monahan's scissors, as far as the crossover point, didn't really show up as far as Black women versus white women until 1970, which is, as a matter of fact, is what? Check it out. 1970, no-fault divorce. After 1970, what happened? Black women started divorcing and also stopped doing what? Marrying Black men. Now, the no-fault divorce actually worked to keep white women who were loyal to their men and did submit to male authority or patriarchal authority. Look what happened. Their marriages stayed normal. In fact, their marriages are the only ones that did stay normal. Their marriage rate actually stayed relatively normal. They married later, because that's some other data. They actually married later, but they actually did get married at some time in their life. And one is because there's a bigger population. They have more money. They have their own money. But even with their own money, they still do what? They still got married, because their culture said you should get married to a man, period. Where in our Black culture, that was not necessarily the truth. In our culture, Black men and women get married out of necessity, more than likely. And when they don't need each other, guess what happens? They get divorced.
Interestingly, this is not just Black women's best pairing. This is white men's best pairing. This is the best pairing. This is literally the best pairing. In terms of how long you stay together, this is the best pairing of any other pairing, including white women, white men, Black men, Black women. Mix it up however you want. At the top is the pairing of Black women, white men.
Now, this is census data. That's Black female. Black females get divorced more than if you took any of the four groups: Black male, Black female, white male, and white female. Don't get it twisted. White females are second as far as getting divorced. Most divorce, 70% of divorces are actually initiated by the female law group. So white females are actually get divorced the second most. Obviously, white men are the least, and the second least is who? Black men. Black men get divorced the second least. Our divorce rate by race and gender, according of the dominant groups, are actually less than not only Black females, but also white females. So with our culture of Black females being literally the head of the household and being part of the matriarchy, and the children and the clan actually take precedent over the husband, that when Black females don't need Black males, guess what they do? They get rid of them, which is what shows up in divorce.
And this is what people who are divestors support and talk about. But it is a statistical reality. So intraracial marriage statistically isn't the best for Black women, while it is best for every other group. And you can't blame Black women for the marriages not working, because they have the best pairing of any group when they pair with white men, regardless to the race and gender of any of these makeup.
Which is something that Frazier talked about. Like I'm saying, Frazier has issues. He is an elitist, and he looks down on poor Black people. But he does have sources, and he was around at that time looking at this stuff. And what he saw, without the numbers, he didn't give any numbers. What he saw is this trend that we still see today. So is it any wonder with Black culture, Black American culture coming out of slavery, developed a quasi matriarchy, doesn't submit to male authority. Well, he doesn't believe in male authority, because you can hear Barbie and Johnny Ringo say the same thing. Black women really don't believe or trust in Black male authority. They're less likely to marry them, and they're more likely to divorce them. So you see the lack of marriage under stress, or the lack of stress when they have it out, and they're more likely to get divorced. when they're not happy or when things aren't working out.
So you can't put bad marriages at the feet of black women. To be fair, I don't know how much you can extrapolate because of the sample size, since black women tend to not date out.
Now, relative to the whole environment, divorce is just what divorce is, okay? That is part of the environment. And why did it affect the black family so much? It's because under Jim Crow, in slavery and Jim Crow, black people are forced to be together. As soon as that woman was not forced to be with that man, guess what happened? Soup, reflected in the data. Numbers don't lie. So that bullshit that black men walked out on their women has never been true. Now, I'm not saying that it's not mutual. If two people don't get along together, guess what they do? They split up. So it wasn't like black women are holding on to that black man's leg, telling please don't leave, or he had to go to the corner and get cigarettes and never come back. It's bullshit. If he didn't suit her, she put him out. If they were fighting together, they split up. Sometimes they stayed married. Well, most times they stayed married because they just didn't bother filing the paperwork. But right after that, when they had an opportunity to actually split up and leave each other, guess what they did? They bounced.